Part 9. Now in this series we're getting into the dead in Christ waiting under the altar under the fifth seal in the book of Revelation. So I want to give you a little bit of story here. I want to fill in that the wrath of the Lamb is an actual army, the Roman army coming to Jerusalem. It said there would be great wrath upon that people, the Jews, that the Gentiles would come and kill them with the edge of the sword and lead them away captive into all nations until the times of the Gentiles were fulfilled. There would be great wrath upon that people, the Jews, and they would get out of Judea and flee into the mountains, the believers would. The wrath that happened was the rod of iron, the iron kingdom, Rome. They received power over the nations, over Rome, to wield the rod of iron, to break Israel into shivers. And that whenever they saw these armies come to Jerusalem, to look up for their redemption drew nigh, and that all things written would be fulfilled then. That's what it said in Luke 21. The dead in Christ were waiting under the altar in Jerusalem. Jerusalem sat up on the the temple sat up on the 7 hills of Jerusalem. The Valley of Hinnom, or the Valley of Gehenna, which they never put in the Bible, they translated it as hell many times, sometimes it should have been Gehenna. It's where they burn the dead bodies and everything. In Jerusalem, it was a valley, way down there. The temple was way up there. The only time that there was hell fire is whenever Jesus Christ died. From the time that Jesus died until the time he came back, there was hellfire. Whenever Jesus died, the graves were opened, and the prophets were seen in the streets. Whenever Jesus died, according to Peter, he went down and he preached the gospel to all of the dead, even those before Noah, from Adam and Eve, all the way until his death, he preached the gospel to the dead. Those who believed would go into Abraham's bosom, which was up in the temple, but there was a great gulf fixed between them, where the bodies were being burned in Gehenna. That's why it said that they were tormented in that flame, because these ghosts were not left to roam around, but some of them went into paradise, into Abraham's bosom up in the temple, waiting under the altar. Before he died, everybody was still in their graves, but once they heard the gospel, the evil people went into Gehenna that died, and the good people went up into the temple, which is your parable of Lazarus and the rich man, that the rich man was in Gehenna. He was being tormented in that flame, because he said, you should fear him who can burn both your body and soul in Gehenna, because they were tormented in the flames, because the fire was constantly going. Nobody would enter heaven until Jesus Christ came back. And the believers knew that the gate to heaven was centered over the temple, where Jacob laid his head, and he had a dream saying, this is the house of the Lord, this is the gate to heaven. That's where angels came up and down into the earth, because God was not with all man yet. He just had Jerusalem under the gate to heaven, or Israel. The rich man said, let me go back and tell my brothers, they'll believe me. He said, no, they won't believe you, even if someone raises from the dead, if they don't believe me, because he would raise from the dead. All right, so stay tuned.